Welcome, everybody, to today's episode of The Jadava Show. I'm your host, Jacob Valier. It is great to have you with us on a Monday following the first NFL Sunday of the NFL season in 2021. Glad to have you with us. A lot went on. Before I go into the main storyline, it is funny. Week one of the NFL season, before kickoff, every team thinks that they're going to win the Super Bowl. Every team thinks they're going to surprise people. They're going to be good this year. But in week one, 16 teams win, 16 teams lose, and a little over 50% of those 16 teams that lose embarrassingly. And they're not feeling too good. But it is funny that this is the league of hope. This is the league where every year, there's renewed hope for every team. It is fascinating to me just how much people put into week one. Even teams like, even Houston Texans fans went into yesterday thinking, we could surprise people, and they did. The Texans went out and surprised people. The Philadelphia Eagles went into week one and thought, we're going to surprise people, and they did. The Detroit Lions also thought they'd surprise people, and they didn't. That's the parody of this league. Every year it's different. But the big surprise, and I'll start with this, of week one, was the Washington football team defense looking awful. Now, this is not going to be how it is all year. I still think they have the best pass rush in the NFL, and they just caught a bad break, but they were feeling themselves a little bit too much in the first week of the season, which is a problem, and it happens. It's also, week one is where a lot of teams are feeling themselves because they haven't really been tested yet. So they understand that, we could surprise a lot of teams. We could surprise ourselves. And good teams will come out in week one and not look that great. Green Bay came out, didn't look so hot in week one. 49ers, defensively, it wasn't very great in week one. Washington, defensively, not great week one. It happens. Cleveland, week one. They didn't win. And so with Washington, look, they played the Chargers on opening day. The Chargers went 14 of 18 on third down in week one against one of the best defenses in the NFL. The defense obviously needs to improve. So it's interesting because we've only got one game that we've seen. Every team has only played one other team except for the Ravens and the Raiders who play tonight on Monday Night Football. Everybody's only played one team. So it's hard to evaluate after week one. Okay? Washington against the Chargers. The Chargers are probably going to have one of the more efficient offenses in the NFL this year. Justin Herbert was absolutely breathtaking in week one against one of the premier pass rushes in football on the road. His first time ever playing with a crowd. He's my MVP pick for a reason. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people as the season wears on. And I think he's going to be very good, and the Chargers are going to be a borderline playoff team. And Washington almost beat them. But this is what happens when you feel yourselves a little bit. Because Washington was at home. They had the veteran coach. They had everything working for them. But there was one thing that they were deficient in. There was one thing. And that was quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt. In comes Taylor Heineke. And boom, guess who wins? The team with the better quarterback. That was the Chargers with Justin Herbert. Now, the defense has plenty of room to improve. They gave up 14 third down conversions on 18 attempts. That's embarrassing. That's about as bad as it gets, quite frankly. Give credit where credit's due. The Chargers had great offensive schemes the entire game. I'm not long-term concerned, but short-term, I was like, we would have won if we had stopped half of those third downs. But Washington went out in the offseason and signed Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's a journeyman veteran quarterback who's been on 9 teams in 17 seasons, who's never exactly been a Pro Bowl quarterback, who has a career now 59-87-1 record as a starter. Yeah, he's 28 games under 500 as an NFL quarterback. And so you trot him out thinking, that's going to be our quarterback. That's going to be our franchise guy. Well, he's 39. He's been on 9 teams in 17 years. He's 28 games under 500. And Washington, who's got a roster that's ready to win football games right now. Coaching staff ready to win. No pressure. No, the coaching staff is not going to get fired in the next 3-4 seasons. They're here for the long haul. So you don't have a coaching staff on the hot seat. You got a defense tailor-made to win now. And you go out and the best... And last year, what was the only thing Washington really needed to improve on? Quarterback. They needed a new quarterback. They had Alex Smith, they had Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen, even Taylor Heineke, and they somehow won their division with all that mess. They had the 2 lowest rated quarterbacks in the NFL last year in Alex Smith and Dwayne Haskins, and they made the playoffs. They had a winning record with those guys. And everybody kept saying, if they went out and got a quarterback, a competent quarterback, a guy that's a borderline top 12 quarterback, they're going to win 11, 12 games. They went out and got Ryan Fitzpatrick. Been a backup almost his entire career. He's 39. 28 games under 500. This is what happens when a team chooses not to improve on their greatest weakness. And guess what? Washington didn't improve on easily their biggest weakness. They plateaued. They stayed the same. Ryan Fitzpatrick, before getting hurt, looked okay. What was the number one concern with Washington's quarterbacks last year? None of them are mobile. None of them have any mobility. So they went out and got a 39-year-old. Yesterday's outcome should have been more predictable. And I'm kicking myself for not understanding that it would have been more predictable, because it should have been. Washington loses 20-16. They made a game out of it. It was a good game. And entering the fourth quarter, Washington was on top. But you can't go up against Justin Herbert with Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke's going to beat Daniel Jones on Thursday night. Okay, those are the types of guys that he's got a chance to beat. But in 2 weeks, he's got Josh Allen. Later on, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. You're not beating those teams. You're not beating those teams with Taylor Heineke at quarterback. You're just not. And so this falls on the feet of Washington's coaching staff, the front office, who decided that instead of getting better at quarterback, they were going to stay the exact same. Look at all the teams that were making deep playoff runs last year. Patrick Mahomes on Kansas City. Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. Buffalo with Josh Allen. You understand? Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Those were the 4 quarterbacks standing. They're probably the 4 best quarterbacks in the league. Russell Wilson made it to the playoffs. Nearly made a great playoff run. Those are the top 5 guys. And people wonder why their team doesn't make the playoffs. The Giants wonder why they don't make the playoffs. It's because your quarterback's Daniel Jones. Dallas wonders why they don't make the playoffs. It's because you don't have a top 8 quarterback. Dak's not a top 8, maybe even not a top 10 quarterback. If you count garbage time stats, then he's a top 5 quarterback. But when the game matters, he's not. Ryan Fitzpatrick is not a top 20 quarterback. And Washington thought they could make the playoffs in a deep playoff run with him at quarterback. That's their problem. All right, I wanted to move on. So so we talk about quarterbacks and being aggressive in the quarterback room. Let me move to a team that was versus a team that wasn't. The Rams versus the Bears. The Rams got aggressive at quarterback. Matthew Stafford was unbelievable in his Los Angeles Rams debut. 300-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, averaged over 12 yards an attempt. He was outstanding. People tried to overthink this, by the way, before the season. They're going to be in the Super Bowl hunt this year. People thought, it's Matthew Stafford. He's got a losing record. Yeah, he's on the he spent 12 years on the Lions. Yeah, I would have a losing. Patrick Mahomes would have had the same record in Detroit. Tom Brady would not have succeeded in Detroit. Peyton Manning never would have. It's Detroit. They're the worst organization in the NFL. So Matthew Stafford leaves, and then he comes to the Rams. Week 1, at home, prime time. He was outstanding. People tried to overthink it. This offense, with those weapons, they'll be great this year because the Rams had a quarterback and Jared Goff, who was a 2-time Pro Bowler and went to a Super Bowl just a few years ago, and said, we need to get better. If the Cleveland Browns had a quarterback that did that, they'd sign him to a lifetime extension. Went to a Super Bowl and made 2 Pro Bowls. But the Rams, who have a coach that's ready to win now, one of the best and most bright coaches in the league, and Sean McVay, he sat down with his people this past offseason and said, we are not going to win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. He is way too limited for us to do what we want to do. So they went and got aggressive, and they went out and got Matthew Stafford. Paying dividends already. Instant offense. Throw it down the field on first down. Hit the guys in stride. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, those guys are going to have big years. Darrell Henderson, a lot of running lanes for him because of that passing game working. In a Sean McVay offense, this is what aggressiveness looks like at quarterback. Teams that stay the same for long periods of time aren't successful with average quarterbacks. The Giants, I've already mentioned the Giants, but they have consistently said Daniel Jones is our guy. They're now 8-19 with him at quarterback. And if you don't count the games against Washington, he's 4-19. Come on. That is what aggressiveness paying off looks like. And kudos to the Rams. But I want to look at the Bears, who have not been aggressive at quarterback so far. Now, they used a first-round pick on Justin Fields, and they moved off of Trubisky when he wasn't working. But starting Andy Dalton is a mistake. Starting your veteran over a young, flashy, promising rookie quarterback is not smart. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not smart. Don't believe me? It's been proven. Take this for example. 2017, the Houston Texans used a first-round pick on Deshaun Watson. Instead of starting him week 1, Deshaun Watson, he ended up being a 3-time Pro Bowler and winning a playoff game or 2 with Houston. They started Tom Savage over Deshaun Watson. How'd that work out? Yeah, they benched Savage week 1. But halftime of week 1, the whole offseason, they said, Tom Savage is our starter. We're not going to start Deshaun Watson. Oh, well, they benched Savage halftime in week 1. 2016, Case Keenum. We're going to start Case Keenum all season, said the Rams. They ended up drafting Jared Goff. In Case Keenum lasted 9 games. He went under 500 and led the lowest rated offense in the NFL. Yeah, how'd that work out for the Rams? Starting Case Keenum over Jared Goff. Yeah, it didn't really work out. 2018, Tyrod Taylor starting over Baker Mayfield for the Browns. Yet Tyrod was benched in week 3 with no wins and never appeared for the Browns again. The Browns at the time of his benching were 0-1-1 and on their way to 0-2-1. How'd that work out for Cleveland? Because it actually ended up being a pretty good team that year. Same season, Nathan Peterman started for Buffalo over Josh Allen, and they benched him at halftime of week 1. They were getting absolutely blitzed by Baltimore. They ended up losing 47-10. They benched Peterman. But the whole offseason, we're going to start Nathan Peterman. We can't start Josh Allen week 1. We got to start Nathan Peterman week 1. How did it work out? Yeah, that plan lasted 2 quarters. And last year, Tyrod Taylor, again for the Chargers, starting over Justin Herbert. We are not going to start Justin Herbert under any circumstance. Tyrod stunk in week 1, got replaced in week 2 with an injury, got healthy. By that time, Justin Herbert had already been turning heads and building his offensive rookie of the year status. Look, all offseason we've heard it from Chicago. We're going to start Andy Dalton. Justin Fields needs to learn behind Andy Dalton. Okay, sure, he needs to learn. But how will he ever learn if he's not playing? I have a job. So I just started my job last month. Okay? And I've been working at it. And now I think I have a gist of it. I'm pretty good at it. But the first few days on the job where I was actually working and helping the company, I would not have known what to do had I not actually done it. Now, people were telling me how to do it. And, people can sit there and tell me how to do my job all they want. But I have to do it. I have to actually work the job to be good at it. And the more I did it, I was better at it. Bill Belichick had an incredible quote, and it's so, so true. You can't get better at playing football by not playing football. You can't get better at playing the piano if you don't play. You can't get better at playing the guitar if you don't play any. You can't get better at playing basketball if you never take a shot. You can't get better at playing football by not playing. But teams like Houston in 17, and the Rams in 16, and the Browns in 18, and the Bills in 18, and the Chargers last year, and the Bears this year, they buy into this weird theory that you can get better by sitting behind a veteran quarterback who's not very good, like Andy Dalton, like Tyrod Taylor, like Nathan Peterman, like Tom Savage, like Case Keenum. Teams just think, oh, they're going to do better by sitting behind them. No, that's actually never been the case. Those teams have been bad until the rookies came in and instantly changed life. Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, going to be Justin Fields. Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Jameis Winston, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, all started week 1 for their teams. You could see it right off the bat. Those guys are going to be good. Kyler Murray, 3 years in the league. He's a perennial MVP candidate to be. Yeah, he wasn't on the bench to start his career. They just let him go. They let him make his mistakes early. Joe Burrow never had to start the year behind anybody. And he's pretty good. He's losing, but he's looking good because he's on a bad team. Jameis Winston never had to learn behind anybody. He's a Pro Bowler. Could be a second-time Pro Bowler this year. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones all started week 1. All made rookie mistakes. They all lost, but they all made rookie mistakes, and they're learning from them. There's nothing wrong with starting rookies early. Get their mistakes out of the way early because, look, I get it. People will say, well, what about Patrick Mahomes? Well, Alex Smith was a very, very good starter. What about Aaron Rodgers? Brett Favre is a Hall of Famer. You know, if you have a Hall of Fame guy, I'm not arguing that. These are guys that aren't very good. If you have a starter that is not good and a rookie quarterback, a first-round rookie quarterback, it's pretty easy who you're going to start, who you should start. Yeah, maybe it's the guy that's actually going to be good for you. That's the future. You can't get better at playing football by not playing. Remember that, kids. All right, so I will end the show with this. Ravens-Raiders, Monday Night Football tonight. I'm taking Baltimore to win that game. I can't remember if I took Vegas to cover or not against Baltimore, but anyway. But we do this after every NFL Sunday. We do the good, the bad, and the ugly of the NFL week. Plenty of good, plenty of bad, a whole lot of ugly. But there's actually a lot of good that I'm going to talk about here. So number one, I have to give credit where credit is due. I was surprisingly encouraged by Jalen Hurts' performance against Atlanta. Now, it is Atlanta. I think they're one of the worst teams in the league, Atlanta. They won, the Eagles. I didn't think they would do a lot of winning this year, but they won in week 1, and Hurts was 27-35 for 264 yards, 3 touchdowns at 7 carries for 62 yards in a 26-point win on the road. Got to give credit where credit is due. I didn't expect much from Jalen Hurts in year 2, and I liked what I saw. I liked a lot of what I saw, actually. And so, got to give credit where it's due. He was really good, and he'll be good for... I think he'll be solid. I really think the way he played, he's going to be solid. He's going to have more bad weeks than great weeks, but he'll be solid. And I truly believe that. Justin Herbert is another good from this weekend. 14 of 18, converting third downs, 300 yards against one of the best pass rushes in the world, and he was on the road. Look, say what you want about Washington, that's a good defense, and they're going to be a good defense this year, and Justin Herbert absolutely torched them, and got to give credit where credit is due. I think he's an MVP candidate for sure as we enter this season. And if you, by the way, if you went away from this weekend thinking Dak Prescott is better than Justin Herbert, I don't know what to tell you at this point. I really don't know what to tell you at this point. So, yeah, that's Justin Herbert was good. The Rams. First game post Jared Goff, they looked better than ever, and they look like a legitimate Super Bowl contender. They're going to be just fine. I think they're going to win 12, 13 games. They'll probably win the NFC West. I'm really encouraged by what I saw from the Rams. Defensively and offensively in week 1, they had an all-around great effort. Jameis Winston, for some reason, was not a starter last season in 2020. Washington would have loved to have had a guy like Jameis Winston a year ago. But he was outstanding. 5 touchdown passes, blowout victory in a technically a home game, but not a real home game against the team that made the NFC Championship with a quarterback that won the MVP last year. Absolutely dominated them. Absolutely outplayed Aaron Rodgers in week 1. And technically on the road, technically at home. It was absolutely fantastic. Jameis Winston, people created this fake quarterback controversy with gadget player Taysom Hill and real quarterback Jameis Winston. And it was as advertised. Jameis was great, and Taysom Hill barely played. Last but not least, Joe Burrow. He was 20 of 27 for 261 yards and 2 touchdowns. Overtime win over a pretty good team in Minnesota, who I thought would make the playoffs this year. But Joe Burrow was really good. And as long as he's playing like this is going to be not a good team, but this is going to be an average to solid team, unlike what they've been, which is a really bad team over the last few years. Joe Burrow is really the life preserver for a bad franchise right now. So that was good. Jalen Hurts, Jameis Winston, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, that was the good. All young quarterbacks. Even Jameis in the 7th year, I still consider him young. He's like 26, 27 years old. And the Rams, as a team, were very good. What was the bad? Well, the bad was Green Bay's offense against New Orleans. They were 1 for 10 on 3rd down. They had 9 minutes less time of possession than the Saints did. Only 229 yards. They only did that once all of last season, where they had less than that, and they committed 2 turnovers. It was ugly. Honestly, this division, everybody lost in this division yesterday. The NFC North went 0-4 yesterday. I like the Packers to repeat as NFC North champions for the 3rd straight year, but they are not as good as they have been. I don't know what it is. I think Aaron Rodgers is not as focused or interested in playing for Green Bay as he used to be. It's going to be a long season. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to be good. They're going to win the division, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Pro Bowler, but they're not going to have the result they want at the end of the season. I have a weird feeling. What else was bad? I think the 49ers closing out the game against Detroit yesterday was bad. They gave up 16 points in under 2 minutes. They nearly gave up a 24-point lead that they had in the last 5 minutes of the game to Jared Goff and the Lions. Jared Goff has historically played awful against San Francisco, and he caught fire late in the game. They recovered an onside kick, and they got a turnover with the 49ers trying to melt down the clock, and it took a defensive stand for the Niners to win a game that they were controlling 5 minutes out. Jimmy Garoppolo looked good, but that defense late in the game, I was less than impressed. They gave up 33 points to Detroit. Could take or leave the 49ers this year. So that was the bad. The Green Bay offense and the 49ers late game situations. The ugly was the Jaguars' defense. They gave up 12 third down conversions. They gave up 449 total yards to the Houston Texans, who, in my opinion, have the worst roster in all of football. They started 0 rookies in week 1. Houston, 0 rookies starting week 1. The first team to do that in forever. They absolutely dominated Jacksonville. Urban Meyer looks a bit in over his head as an NFL head coach, if I do say so myself. There were reports coming out of the Jaguars locker room that he's just too much of a hard ass for them. And guess what? He's not coaching in college anymore. He can't just tell these guys what to do like he could in college. These guys have families. These guys have mortgages and kids and people to provide for depending on them for income. There's money involved now for Urban Meyer. He needs to learn that fast, and he needs to learn how to not call 50 billion passing plays for his rookie quarterback on the road in week 1 against a divisional opponent. And finally, the Washington football team's third down defense. First of all, the pass rush, non-existent in week 1. Non-existent pass rush for the best pass rush in the NFL. They had the lowest pressure rate in the entire league in week 1. 12% pressure rate against the Chargers, who had 4 new starters on the offensive line. And they gave up 14 third down conversions. I think they gave up like 8 or 9 straight third down conversions to end the game against Washington. They need to clean that up. Now, they get a break because they play the Giants this week, and the Giants' offense is awful. I could eat my words if the Giants go nuts on Thursday Night Football, because that is a day that Washington has rarely won in their franchise history, but they got a lot to clean up. So that was the ugly. Jaguars and Washington defense. Jacksonville we expected, but they actually performed much worse than I thought they would, and Washington was way under expectation in week 1. All right, good stuff. Tonight, Ravens and Raiders. That is the Monday night game, I'm picking Baltimore to win despite them having so many running back issues. And the Raiders they're the Raiders. They're not going to be very good. They are not very good. So it's going to be a long day for them. But that is it for me. I'm actually on my lunch break right now at my current job, and so I got to go back to work, or else I'd have more to say. But as far as my services have gone today, and as far as things go, I'm your host, Jacob Valier. You've been listening to The Jadavis Show, and we will see you all later.